Ta-da! Hello, my name is Sumeng,
And I
and
am Tristan.
where is Chi Leong, one may ask. And turns out that Chinese New Year unofficially start tomorrow. We had for every Chinese New Year we actually had the Chinese New Year Eve dinner, the Nian San Si Wan. So what happened is we had a big family dinner. I have that in KL, so I'll be staying with you guys. Chi Leong is going back to his hometown, very tiring trip, so he will be joining us today.
And I'm
So
trying
what
out
is
this new green screen thing on this
okay?
StreamYard stuff. So I don't know. Looks interesting.
Okay, it's
I'm probably turning it off
yeah.
soon.
I can't have it because turns out it doesn't work for
Yeah.
Firefox. What browser do
Yes.
you use?
Speaking of that, I'm using the new Microsoft Edge for Windows because
Okay.
I'm on the insider preview on the fast ring, so I usually get most of the new
Uh
things. So I have WSL2, the new
huh.
terminal. The like now they dropped Microsoft Edge since I think 2 weeks ago or last week
Uh huh.
on the insider.
Oh.
So I had that for some time.
Uh huh.
Microsoft Edge, the new Microsoft Edge runs Chromium, and it the first time you launch it, it actually asks you if you are running Chrome if you can import if you would import your data. And it
Uh
since
huh.
I'm already logged in Chrome, I'm still logged in here in Microsoft Edge, so I didn't have to log into any other stuff that I was already logged into Chrome. So it looks like it copied everything, including cookies, session stuff, storage. So they're making it very easy to switch over, at least on
Interesting.
the Windows side. So that's quite okay. But it's the same rendering engine, so I guess I get this because I'm on technically Chrome,
Yep.
and yeah, interesting. I will
Also,
switch out.
on a side note, uh, the Microsoft Edge for Mac already out last week, I believe. So I did not test
Mm.
whether it exists on Linux yet. Not primarily a front end guy, so I didn't check.
Mm.
So that being said,
Well,
what should we go on first? Yeah.
so you can run Wine 5. It just got released over the past few days. Wine
Yeah.
5.0 was
Okay.
released. So now you can run Microsoft Edge as well on Wine. I don't know if it actually works, but
Yeah.
apparently it's a big version number. I didn't know that Wine was still a thing because I haven't really used Wine in like gaming
Uh,
for a long time, but apparently it is.
if you're on, okay, so before we go on this, let's go on slightly a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on Steam on Linux or even Mac, you have a
Mm-hmm.
thing called Proton.
Mm-hmm.
Proton is essentially a patch version of Wine. I do not know whether Steam developers actually share the patch to Wine by itself, but if so, they actually use Wine to actually build a compatibility layer
Mm-hmm.
for different operating system. So it's called Proton. Some of my game already compatible. I tried it. It's pretty interesting. So
Mm-hmm.
that being said, what should we cover first? We should cover the news or should we cover the
Yeah,
meetup?
we will continue on with the news.
All
Um,
right. So
then we'll go with the meetups.
okay, you're breaking up a little, but let's go on. So I already said that last week. Chrome for what's the name of it called? Chrome for Mac
Windows,
got
yeah,
released.
Mac.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you're on Mac, you have to use Chrome. That's finally available to you. Then we have. Uh, so here's the interesting one. Uh, when we take our break last week,
Mm-hmm.
the National Security Agency in the US actually released an advisory for Microsoft Windows. So Microsoft had to patch the operating system. So
Mm-hmm.
it's apparently bad enough that you need to patch it. Uh,
Oh, okay. So
th-
that's why I had to reboot without like outside of the original schedule
yeah,
probably because of this patch.
yeah, it's a 0 day. Uh,
Mm.
so another interesting note. This one is where I learned a thing called no bus.
Mm-hmm.
No bus means it's a vulnerability used by it's actually acronym used by the NSA in the US. So what it means that is nobody but us. What it means that
What? Nobody
the
but
national security.
us. What
So
does
this is
what?
actually a term for NSA to use for vulnerability that only they know how to use. So
Mm,
no bus. So to for their work in security and all the intelligence work, they actually hot vulnerabilities, and they actually a classification of vulnerabilities say no bus, nobody but us, which
mm-hmm.
is mean only they can use it. And nowadays, it previously only like certain agencies would use it. The Israeli have something like this. The British have this for a while. GCH could have those for a while. They may not announce it, and they say definitely have it. But turns out that as more organizations have hacking crews and all that, uh, they also hold their own 0 days, and the list of no bus is actually getting lesser and lesser. So I will
Mm-hmm.
share the list later. No bus.
Mm-hmm.
So very interest. It's a very interesting thing. And another thing to add on top of this is uh, there's actually a conspiracy theory. There's
Mm-hmm.
actually a conspiracy theory that this is actually a way for NSA to introduce vulnerabilities because NSA actually known to do that, by the way.
Who? The
In the
NSA.
early So in the early day of the crypto wars, the NSA actually recommend a Clipper chip and an encryption
Mm-hmm.
standard. So what happened is that this is the government sanctioned encryption standard that allows people to actually have secure communication. And most at the surface, look upon by third party, it's generally fine, but what people discover with Clipper is that there's actually one vulnerability that the NSA can use to actually snoop on it, even though it's encrypted. So
Mm.
Clipper is actually the code name for the device, and NSA had a backdoor for it. Uh, as a result, people don't trust the NSA that much, but they do have history of because they have a history of trying to backdoor their way to the technology that they introduce
Mm.
people to use.
Is it the reason why they keep on asking Apple and Google for backdoors, like WhatsApp or Facebook
Uh,
as well? Because they have
Very likely
experience from
so.
before, right? They
Correct. They
already
are
have experience on backdoor encryption, and so they know it's
correct.
possible, and so they're asking, "Hey, can you just do that again?"
Correct. But the thing is, I should recommend you a book later. Maybe I share the book later. There's
Mm-hmm.
this book by Stephen Levy about the crypto wars. It's very
Mm-hmm.
interesting. And okay, so last thing on top of that, the crypto war also leads to people actually printing the source code of pretty good privacy on a book to be sent over to Germany to be transcribed and recompiled so that they can export PGP outside the US.
Mm.
So yeah,
But so because the source code is copyrighted, but so printing it as a
no,
book,
because
no?
software is classified as ammunition after where by the US government when PGP are out, but books are speech. So you cannot
Mm.
in the US Constitution you cannot block speech. Therefore, you
Mm.
can bring book over because speech are protected.
So you can export,
A
technically
book,
export the thing.
a
Mm-hmm.
yes,
A
but the thing
book. So
is,
it has to be a book, not like reams of paper, printed paper.
it's literally a paper. It's paper form of the
Mm-hmm.
PGP source code, and also it's a source code, not a software.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a loophole for them to actually bring the stuff over, so
Is
that
it
they can compile.
is
Yeah,
it working? Did they succeed?
they had to do they had to do some type fixing.
Mm.
Source code.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to know if they actually succeeded exporting the book.
Uh, Actually, they do it though. La 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 la. Okay, so I'm going to share another link again.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, So pretty good privacy. Look at the Wikipedia. They actually say that the creator of PGP actually compile, put it as the source code as a book and send it over. The
Mm.
it's a complex case, but it's a really interesting hack. So that said, last week Microsoft forced everybody to update their Windows because there's a security issue. So that's done. Then
There's the
we
leak, I
covered.
think, right? There was
Yeah.
the leak of multiple, what do you call this? Multiple vulnerabilities. Sorry, multiple users. Where was
Oh
that?
yeah, there's a big one. I lost it somewhere. Damn it.
Was it at random?
It might be no. It might be in general. It might be
Ah,
in
yeah. So
general
it's in
actually.
random. So big Microsoft data breach, 250
Huh.
million records exposed.
Yep.
Uh,
And on the
so
same time,
may, is that
on
because
the,
of the vulnerability? I don't know.
I don't know. Nobody really knows actually. It's hard to
Mm.
say.
Mm-hmm.
And then around the same time, everybody had to update Google Chrome and not Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox because there's an
Mm-hmm.
active vulnerability at stake. So for the past 2 weeks on our holiday, there's a lot happening on the security side.
Well, security as well, physical security, because the Wuhan virus is going around, and so there's physical security in the airports. There's lots of
Yeah.
screening happening, making sure that the virus is contained. Why is coronavirus so like it's not like polio, right? Where it's like it's almost
No,
gone and then.
coronavirus is actually similar to SARS.
Mm.
And the symptom they give is similar to SARS. It sounds like a flu, like, but the recent flu in Malaysia is not the same thing. The Wuhan virus is
Mm.
a different thing.
Yeah, but so
So,
why
but
is it so important to make sure that it does not spread? Like, is it like malaria
it's
or
it's
something?
highly infectious. It's easily
Also, it's human to
infectious.
human
Yeah,
communicable disease. Okay.
correct. So a few things happen that is very important for the disease. One, uh, the Chinese government only announced it like a few days later. It's better than last time, but they do announce it a bit late. 70 people already died. There's
Mm-hmm.
already case of human to human transmission. A few countries already have people infected and being quarantined as we speak. And the most important one is they're actually only starting quarantine just before the big Chinese migration. So every
Yeah.
Chinese New
So
Year or Lunar New Year,
yeah,
yes,
it's Chinese New Year, so everyone is going to their home provinces, right? And
correct.
with the
So
and because you want to contain the spread of this virus, you're going to bottleneck the airports to make sure security scans are
yeah, 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 yeah,
happening.
yeah, correct, correct, correct. At Wuhan area, correct. But the thing is, some people already leave, so we do not know how many
Mm-hmm.
people of the infected actually already leave, but didn't show symptom yet. So which
Mm.
is why it's a very big deal. And this is not the only disease that happened in China right now. China recently had the whole pig stock being destroyed because the pig got infected with some disease that I don't remember the name. So it's not the first time this happens.
Mm. How would you quarantine this if this was a computer system, for example, like
Uh,
malicious form like malicious program that copies itself over to any network it finds. Well, assuming that it
uh,
needs to like do a port scan to find out open port, it takes time to actually spread from a computer.
uh, Computer is a lot easier because the exit point are very clear,
Mm-hmm.
very clear. The physical world is a lot harder simply because if you've got a landlocked area, it means that if you're in the middle of the place with land and forest and whatnot, it means you need petrol. Whereas for us, we need to monitor all the network, all the packet and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Even that, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
Even for network, there's no guarantee that nothing can goes in, right? For example, how this would happen is very similar to disease. let's say you have a file that actually bypass your heuristics, your
Mm-hmm.
pattern recognition for viruses. Therefore, you can infect a computer. That's what virus does actually, and which is why you always have to update your definition. So they call it. A definition is actually
Mm-hmm.
a database of patterns for files and whatnot. But for Apple, for example, they have something even easier. Windows do have it. Linux do have that if you use official source. You do signature. So for Apple to build an app, you need to control the ecosystem, meaning you have to sign the application before you can compile it and whatnot. That make distribution harder. Once you bypass it, you're on your own. But generally, most cases they try to do that. Windows have this capability. On Linux, you can do that as well. You have to compile your own source code and all that. But generally, nothing stops you from running a binary. The only thing that really stops from binary from running might be the incompatibility of libraries, and that's about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also on Linux, now it used to be, I do not know how, you have to manually run an application. You do not, even though you have a daemon, you really literally need to know that you're installing a daemon and install a
Mm-hmm.
common operation. On Windows, for some reason, it's easy to automatically run application.
Mm-hmm.
Something I never quite clear myself. But the general idea is the same. Had a system that check the definition, sorry, the signature of file, sign a file. This is the equivalent of passport to know that you're trusted. Your pets have these medical cards and all that to show that
Mm-hmm.
they don't have a disease and all that. Same
Mm-hmm.
idea. But the real world is also a lot harder in a way that bird flu is a very cruel one. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but the physical world don't actually have a border that nothing can go through.
Yeah.
Birds, for example, can literally fly anywhere.
But
Yes, there
this
is
is
a pattern.
similar to the new techniques, the hacking techniques, like air gap systems, right? Where there's a
Yeah,
literal
yeah,
air
yeah.
gap between the thing, and then you can actually, like, the fluctuations on electricity, depending on how
Yeah,
the
yeah.
CPU uses it, then you can actually detect that. So I guess it's the same parallel. You wouldn't
Yeah,
expect that it was
no.
actually birds.
Uh, in theory, yes, but in practice, there is only specific vectors for air gap attack. Very
Mm-hmm.
specific. You need specific configuration, specific hardware, specific setup.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas birds, yes, they go to a certain migratory path, but it's a very wide migratory path. So that's the difference between birds and all that. So that
Mm-hmm.
said, I think we have enough of news to scare
Mm-hmm.
people. Take care. If you're sick, check with your doctor because we are living in a globalized world, so who knows what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Drink a lot of water. The weather is
Uh,
horrible recently.
this
It's
might be
very
the
hot.
best time for you to convince your employer to do a remote friendly system or process. Because if you're sick,
Yeah.
but not sick enough to not like just to at least like do 4 hours of work, right? Why
Yes.
do you have to take a leave? Just work from home 4 hours and then don't force yourself to go to the office because you're sick.
And finally, Malaysia recently have some influenza, so get the flu shot, and that's about it for us. And so, how about events? What happened? What happened for
Well,
Sure?
what's happening now is that there's an AWS user group meetup. They moved
Okay.
to Seek Asia. They used to be at I forgot where that was. iFlix? Was it iFlix? So it used to be
Oh,
iFlix, but I think they didn't have a good streaming, ironically, a good streaming experience inside the office.
uh-huh.
So they are doing it on Seek Asia. So I think
I
they've
thought
just
that
left.
I thought they only do at AWS office. Interesting.
No, no.
So
The AWS
yeah.
meetup had always been in iFlix, I think.
Okay.
I don't think AWS has an office here. Does Amazon have an office in Malaysia?
Yeah, yeah. They have a sales office.
A sales office, but not like a meetup technology thing, like a
They have
hall
a
for meeting.
they have a big enough area for a medium-sized meetup.
Mm,
DevOps meetup is held there a few times.
I don't know. I wonder why AWS is not done in Amazon,
Yeah.
but maybe something.
Yes.
There's
And
fireworks happening
also,
over there.
Every Chinese New Year, we're going to have fireworks blowing around, then illegal, very noisy, make
Mm-hmm.
my dog very anxious and scared a
Mm-hmm.
bit kid, but otherwise we're fine. Our house didn't burn down here.
Mm.
So let's continue our events. On the 28th, we actually had a Go meetup. Okay, it's supposed to
28.
be
Oh,
myself.
I don't have it on my calendar.
Oh,
Let me see.
interesting. I think the widget
It's
only
not on
show
the
on my.
Yeah, it's not on the published calendar yet, so I guess
Okay.
you have to publish it.
No, the plan to have it, we don't have that yet.
Ah, so it's insider
Correct.
information. Mm-hmm.
Correct. And finally, this is very interesting. VMware actually had a meetup
On the
on
25th,
25th.
but
Yes,
it's not
this
next week, but we didn't know that there was a meetup happening. VMware. Wow.
yeah. VMware had a lot of technology, and they actually are pretty commonly used among enterprise environment. I like to air quote them because uh, so what VM I believe they have user group. They may not be well published, but they exist, and
Mm-hmm.
VMware is actually very well used because not everyone are really on the cloud like us. So it's actually a very common thing.
Mm. I
So
don't know. Well, maybe because it's being used by businesses, but I don't know if VMware is used a lot for like like systems like mine, for example. Because I personally now use VirtualBox a lot.
yeah,
Now I'm using Windows, right? And
yeah,
I've switched to Windows since like a few months ago, maybe 6 months
yeah.
ago. Complete, well, not completely, but I still have some. I still dual boot sometimes. But because when Microsoft released their on VS Code released the remote VS Code remote,
Mhm.
now I'm just running a full system on under VirtualBox, and VS Code just does the remote thing, and it
Yeah,
works very very well. And it's easy to set up like network forwarding, port forwarding, etc. So
yeah.
I have the full Windows operating system, but everything on my programming runs on VirtualBox. So I don't know if VMware
Uh,
is as easy to
VMware use
set up.
case. VMware, the target is not people like us.
Mm,
They used to have a desktop product, and they maybe they do, but they do not aim to us anymore.
mm,
Uh, their their biggest business nowadays is actually on hosting, not for hosting company. Think about organization that is very sensitive about their data, banks, uh, other investment sectors and whatnot.
hmm.
So they may not
So they
have a
host
lot of
it
customers.
on. So they have like a big bare metal mainframe,
Not
and
mainframe, but it's their servers, their rack servers like us. They're still rack
yeah. So
servers.
okay, rack servers, but actual bare metal hardware, and then they
Yeah,
run
correct,
VMware.
correct, correct.
Mm. So for
Financial
partitioning
industry
instead
still
of
use that.
okay,
So one of the
okay.
things why they use that is because so our virtual box is for us, right? You have other things.
Mm-hmm.
The people in the scene is actually Zen, maybe Red Hat with the KVM based product
Mm-hmm.
and VMware. But the
Oh,
family
VMware
employees a
is
lot.
I think VMware is level. I forgot. Like it runs before other operating systems, right?
Correct,
Like
correct.
Zen.
They are the pioneer.
Yeah, because KVM is like user space, isn't it?
Correct, correct.
Or is it still?
So
I think it blurs the line because it's part of the kernel, so it's technically like
correct.
the first layer.
So
But
either
VirtualBox, for
way, yeah,
example, is a user space program.
precisely. VMware used to be a user space thing, but they may not have a lot of customers, but when they do, they are big one, so they're enterprise customers.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, there is a data privacy day on 28th January. That's the week
It's
after
what
that.
next
Yeah,
week? Yeah,
yeah, Tuesday as well. So that's all for
Tuesday together
event.
with the Go meetup. Really, are they clashing with Go?
Yeah, probably. I do not know what happened.
Well, they
Coordination
announced it
is still.
first, so they announced it first, so I guess they get the dibs, right?
Yeah. So
Maybe I
coordination is
don't
still
know.
not very good. But I have a dream. I dream that one day we can eat free food every weekday, every weeknight,
Mm-hmm.
because we have so many events in Kuala Lumpur.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
Oh
you
yeah,
so much.
speaking of event, so I instead of the Ruby Code Clinic yesterday, Tuesday, and the
Yeah,
DevOps happened on Tuesday. So there were
yeah,
actually three events. I went to the webcam reunion
yeah.
on Tuesday. So it was a reunion. There wasn't really any uh technical talk. It was just like
Yeah.
reminiscing about the times.
Mhm.
So it's not that big if you missed it and didn't attend it. But it's good to see some old faces, some
Yeah.
like people that you haven't seen for 10 years. So they're there.
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, the schedule is too bad for me because I have to take a train and all that. By the time I reach by
Yeah.
7, then so yeah. So that's it. That's about event and community, and
hmm
also a reminder to myself that we need to interview Wuhan again
Yeah, we
one
have
day.
to interview him because things apparently are changing. But he did say during the meetup that whatever we heard are all lies until it happens. So we'll have to get it from him.
Okay.
You have to interview him and see what happens now.
Okay. So let's start with the main topic: learning
Mm-hmm.
adventure redux. So why I cover this? Because everything happened again. And no, I keep
What
saying
are
that
you
everything
covering?
happening is interesting.
What are you
So I cut.
covering?
So I did. I finished a unit testing board. Very interesting board.
Wait, is that
I
version 2 or 3? The
two
JavaScript or the C sharp?
two on the C sharp
C
one,
sharp.
but
Mm-hmm.
I reviewed the three because I actually had access to it. I access whatever they have. So I try to do some comparison. Uh, a lot of the meat are not there yet, but early access, pretty good. I like the early access content. Then the most important and interesting to me is that I also subscribe to Udemy.
Mm-hmm.
Udemy here, I subscribe to two courses because in December they actually have a discount, a big
Mm-hmm. They
discount.
always have
So
discounts.
for yeah, they always have discount. So for me, it's like $9 US. That's like 40 ringgit. 40
Mm-hmm.
ringgit is something I can pay lah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it turns out that my workplace they actually sponsor a Udemy course with
Oh,
discount
nice.
if I finish it. So the catch is I actually have to finish it.
That's nice.
So
That's good.
so I subscribe to two things. For the work related one, I subscribe to the React course. It's called Modern React with Redux.
Who's the
So
author?
the author is, oh my goodness, can I see the course?
Is it
Actually,
Maximilian? Not
uh,
Maximilian by
uh,
Academy because I have that one. That one was good.
yeah, I like this one. I like this one, but about this course, blah, blah, blah. How do I see it?
No, it's okay if you can't
Stephen
find it.
Grinder. Stephen Grinder. But I like it. I like it because I'm primarily a backend developer, meaning my last serious front end development is using D3 and jQuery. So I'm very outdated
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to that. I dabble around with Vue and I dabble, so I don't have production experience per se. So I did a few POC. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is this one is actually a very well known course. It's actually machine learning A to Z,
Mm.
hands on with Python and R in data science. I
But you already know
haven't.
machine learning. Why did you have to buy this
Uh,
just so that
so
you
the
can
thing
laugh at
is,
it? No.
this one I pay for myself because one uh, I run at different direction at the same time. This I will go on a little deeper why I
Mm-hmm.
actually take the course. But this one also has some modern tool set that I didn't know. I know the theory, but this one covers the practice. So I do not. It's 40 ringgit for something that covers very wide and quite a number of stuff that I never heard. That I never got a chance to work on, but I read about it, right? Or I read the source
Mm-hmm.
code. So yeah, so I have these three things that happening, and I think this is a very interesting experience because this is my first time doing a course on video. But
Mm-hmm.
Previously, I used to say that I have problem learning on video. That still stand. That still stand, but and there's difference. So how should I go?
Wait, sorry. Is the art of unit testing the one that you bought?
Yeah, I bought that book myself.
Okay,
Yes.
because I think I'm buying it now. Sorry, because
Okay.
you mentioned it was actually good, so I just needed to.
Just be careful about the book because let
Yeah.
me cover some review about the art of unit testing. The problem with the
Mm-hmm.
second edition is it's a bit heavy on tools.
Uh huh.
So people may not get what they want, but they have a few. They got a number of pointer of why certain things are done this way. For example, something that I do not know whether you how the Ruby guys thinks, but for Python, we do mock and start very liberally. Our definition of
Uh,
mock and start is very liberal,
on C
whereas
sharp or general?
general for us Python developers,
Uh huh. Uh huh. Well, yeah, because it's
because we
easy because you have duck typing in Python, so it's easy to mock things.
correct. But the definition in the book is goes like this: a start is just to fake something. A mock can be actually asserted.
Mm-hmm.
For us, the main library is actually mock and it's actually part of the standard library, and can do both things. And also because it's C sharp, the way the mock in the early in the book is things like you had to define an interface, then you implement the interface, then you write a function that actually override everything else, but keep only the method you want to test with. For example, uh, so the reason is one to only test one method at a time. So what this
Mm-hmm.
good book is good for is they show you the practice. What is not so good about this is that it's very heavy on tools, which is why I suggest that you should wait for the JavaScript one to be out, because
Well,
JavaScript is more
that is
recognized.
what I'm buying, but
Yeah,
apparently the second edition is free
correct, correct,
along
correct,
with the third one.
correct,
So I'm just buying the first
correct,
one.
correct.
Sorry,
Yep,
the third edition.
yep,
It's 40 US because I guess
yeah,
discount is gone. But I have
yeah,
this coupon for $8, so it's 32. Then I can
yep,
get that. Cool. Okay, thanks for the recommendation. Sorry, you were asking
yes.
me a question. Which one should you go first?
What you want to know about all these three things: the book and or the Udemy course?
Yeah, the Udemy course I'm interested because that's so visual video based learning is
Yep.
relatively new. This
Yes.
only really came about with the advent of YouTube, all of these um, educational sites that well, YouTube paved the way because YouTube showed that you can do video streaming at
Yep.
and the economies of scale will like, take care of you, right? And
Correct.
internet access is like going down, internet speeds are going up, so the payment per kilobyte or actually per megabyte or gigabyte now is actually very small. And
Yep.
before, like what 20, 30 years ago, like you actually had printed books and magazines, and so whatever new technology is being done, compilers needed to be marketed and did sales for. There's open source is not a thing. There was shareware, and so you'll have like Borland uh, compilers being copied over, for example, on floppy disks. And so
Yep.
that's how you actually try things out. But now you have all of these video-based learnings relatively new. So I'm not sure if someone who grew up in magazines and book-based
Mhm.
learning, how are you coping up with video-based learning? What's
So
top
here's the
topic
diff-
chapters?
so here's the difference between video and books. Uh, Video is not something. Here's the catch, right? And again, it's the same for book. Videos are not something that you can passively watch. It's the same for books. You should, but it's the format. In this case, the format is very important. In this case, you really what would work very well is what you work very well is that you have to, as much as possible, follow along. Uh,
I follow along.
So it only works well if you got source code. There is a source code. So
Mm-hmm.
both of the course I'm taking contain code, not code exercise. It's more of code examples. So the instructor will actually
Mm-hmm.
do a demo application. Then uh, once you do a demo application, it's advisable that you follow along so they can absorb it better. It's not
So
something
you
that
you type it along, for example, or something, because they
yeah,
usually
yeah, yeah,
have
correct.
downloads of the source code file, right?
Uh, yes, both provide source code, but you do not get the benefit. Okay, put it this way. I should say you. I do not. I'm unable to focus without the code exercise. I need to
Mm-hmm.
follow along, and that works well for me. But the only problem with that is that that only work well if I have multiple screen.
Mm-hmm.
I only have one screen on my desktop. That actually make it a bit annoying.
Are you able
But
to ask your employer for another screen?
no, no, I'm doing it on my personal machine.
Mm-hmm.
I can use a laptop and plug it to the earphone and get my sound working. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that my table is a mess. That's my trouble.
Okay.
It works well with multiple screen, either directly or whatnot. And I suggest that you have the tools set up already. The good thing is
Mm-hmm.
both of the courses actually tells you what tools do you use, how do you set up. These are the first thing.
Yeah, that's what I've actually noticed on many of the video courses now, is that they
Yeah,
spend like the first few chapters on how to set up on Windows, on Mac, on
hmm,
Linux. And
correct.
so that's actually like you can they say you can skip this if you already know how to test it, how to set
Yeah,
things up. But for
yes,
beginners, they actually get that in. So that's good.
correct. So and arguably, so when people thinking that is video better than books, not true. Actually, if you do the book, you read programming books. Uh, it's also advisable that you follow along and type along. Don't just download the source code and run it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the reason is you have to see. I do not know the theory behind it, but it could be the IKEA. It's not the IKEA effect. IKEA effect means that you actually. IKEA effect means you actually.
You value the stuff that you make by yourself, so you
It's
value it
partially
more.
that. It's partially that, but this is more toward a learning outcome.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like with software developers, we learn better if we code things than just read things.
Also, it's like I guess it's just like learning how to play the piano. You can read all
Correct.
the theory of music on how to play the piano and all of these things,
Yeah.
but unless you actually play the piano, you're never
Correct.
really going to play the piano and learn how to do it.
Correct. Correct. So there's this video. There's this podcast called Hidden Brain. Was it either Hidden Brain or You're Not So Smart? There's actually the idea of the
Who's the
debt of
host? Is it the
expertise.
female New Zealander or
No, no, it's
an
a guy.
American guy? So then
It's a
it's not
guy.
you're not so smart.
So you're not so smart actually.
No,
So
sorry,
they
not
actually
you're not so
covered.
smart. It's something that's smart, something I forgot. The first thing that you said. Sorry. Anyway, yeah.
So they actually say that the debt of expertise because we thought we know something because we watch video. It's easy to fall into a trap if you actually just watch the video passively. Do the exercise. Follow along the code. Don't passively do things. It works for me. Like that's my suggestion.
There's one of the tutorials that I used to recommend a lot to fresh developers. Is Learn Ruby the hard way. And he also wrote the Learn Python the hard way.
Yeah,
And the hard
correct,
way is the easy way because he forces you to type in the source code, no copy pasting because it's an online tutorial, right? But no copy
correct.
pasting, you type it out, and
Yes,
you will eventually make mistakes because your spacing, your tabs might be incorrectly set up so that
yeah,
you're actually not. And then you realize by making those mistakes that you are already learning. Oh yeah,
correct.
okay, this is how you terminate a string or something. Like it's a
Yes,
code, not just a single code. You have to do it on the other
correct,
side. Yeah.
correct. So
Oh,
type
something's
it.
falling
Do
over.
not.
I'm still here.
Okay.
Yeah. What
Type
you say?
it. Do not skip it. So that's one. Another thing is there's different from learning on YouTube, for example. Udemy actually have homework. It's very simple one. So I find it a bit too simple for me, but It's useful for you to get the basic idea out. So there's a different one. But here's one thing you need to know about video-based learning. It's not guaranteed to be. It's not guaranteed to be updated. So a good example is actually the data science one. The material is a bit old in a way that they released just about the time when scikit-learn has a new library update to library. So I follow along the instruction. They use a thing called imputer. Turns out that scikit-learn moved to another library called simple imputer and all that. So video courses do not automatically get updated. It's the same for books. So one reason why people think that books are always outdated, they are not wrong, but putting out video doesn't guarantee that uh,
Yes,
doesn't
it
guarantee
depends on the
that.
it depends on the author, right? If they update the video courses, then it's actually better value, and you're more likely to buy it. It's always updated.
Correct. So what this does compared to books is that online courses is more similar to a training program that you follow a long time, because what happened is that in between the Udemy course, they actually provide a note that say this library changed, do it this way and whatnot. So another good example for that update is actually the React course I took. Turns out that toward the end, there is actually a number of legacy courses. So legacy courses is
Mm.
actually things that so you may follow along if you want to, and it might be a good idea simply because legacy those codes are still running in production, so we may have to deal with it.
Yeah, that's actually a good like thing for if you're an experienced developer and then you're learning this, but also going to be working on legacy code because like especially React has
Yes,
changed their API many times. Now you have this context thing, and actually what you just bought is already outdated apparently, because now
yeah,
people are moving out of Redux, which was the like the bread and butter thing of React like a few years ago, and now they
correct.
have this context thing, right? And so now it's
Yes,
already outdated at this point.
correct. And it's the same for book. So in the way that content-wise, learning both video and book is the somewhat the same, but the basic is important. So that's another thing. So
Mhm.
anything else you want to know about difference between videos and
Well,
books and whatnot?
so you have the video, you have the uh, book. But is there a difference between a printed book and the ebook? Like which one would be
Uh,
easier for you?
okay. So I like physical book because it's called the anchoring effect. And anchoring effect is that things are more real if you can hold it. But in this case, my hack is I actually had a book. I actually had an ebook reader, so that actually anchor my content to something. Uh, many would thought that having ebook is good because you download the PDF. What's the noise? Is it from your side or my side?
Sorry, what's the question?
I hear some noise.
What do you mean? Maybe it's, I'm not sure.
Okay, don't worry about that. So many thought that the idea of having a book, ebook, the PDF is that you can copy and paste. That actually is the worst mistake to me. It doesn't work for me because, as we said just now, right, you have to type. In this case, having a book is force me to type, but it may not work for you. But the point is, regardless of the medium that you prefer, do the exercise, follow along, type it with my hand. Do not. It's the same for technical book. It's the same. It works better if you follow by that.
Mm-hmm.
So ebook or physical book. I like physical book, but in reality, let me show you something. I'm
Mm-hmm.
out of space. I'm really out of space. Okay.
Yeah. You have a whole. Well, that's a small shelf though, relatively
Yeah.
speaking. Usually you'll have a
Because
wall of that.
yeah, correct. I wish I can have more, but different place. But for me, the hack is you can have a tablet. I have an ebook reader.
Mm-hmm.
The point of that is to force you to type. It forced me to type, and that's important. So, though, here's another thing that's interesting about Books is more vulnerable to old to outdated content than say video and whatnot. Um, it's not necessarily a bad thing. They also encourage active learning in a way that you have to know what is updated, what is not. But the problem is that as a result of things change too fast, right? I have a tendency to not buy a book about a library and more of a book about concept. So, for example, a deep learning book, I focus on talking about deep learning with TensorFlow as a medium to talk about, instead of talking about learning deep TensorFlow to do deep learning. You get the
Mm-hmm.
idea? So
Yep.
I tend to focus on that nowadays. And but that being said, if you have some outdated library, and that's a good thing. Active learning is about so that you can actively find out uh, what's the better way to do that. Because in the outdated, so in the data science course, right, the video is outdated because the library changed. I learned a bit
Mm-hmm.
better because when the IDE highlight there's an error that the library the part doesn't work, and should do research and find out that the change library that actually enforced by learning.
Mm.
So that's a hack to me, but it doesn't work for everyone. But there's reason behind it,
What
which
are
is
the
why in book.
other what are the other ways? You say it works for you, but are there any other ways that other people might try in order to learn? Like
Uh,
learning by doing is one thing.
yeah, a lot technical book. If a very technical book,
Mm-hmm.
focus on practice. That's the last thing I want to say, and it always revolve around that. Do not
Mm-hmm.
copy and paste. Uh, Unfortunately, in some research, writing notes is better than typing notes. It's partly anchored in fact, but when we learn programming books, unfortunately, we don't actually have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we don't actually have a choice. We really have to compile our code somehow. So, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Just one thing I like about book that is not video is that video you have to consciously pause the video.
Yeah.
That's my critique of video learning. Book is that when you reach there, you just type and you're already automatically there, right? So once you've done the example, then yeah, then you can continue. It's more seamless than video, but uh, also take a lot of breaks. So in this case, I do not try to force the 40-hour course, right? So a lot of people that I know, okay, so I made an assumption that when people learn things from YouTube, it's like a 5 minute, 20-minute thing. Udemy that the structure the course at most 10 plus minutes. A lot of the exercise to implement the code is at 3 minutes at a time. Take some rest. That works for me. I take some rest in between. I do not actually attempt to rush 40 hours. That will bite me very fast uh, because it's a 40-hour course. So if you do
Mm-hmm.
1 hour a day, 1 hour a day, you will spend like 2 months.
Mm. Wow, that's
2 months.
yeah, that's a long
Yeah,
course.
yeah, it's a long
And it's nine
course.
dollars, really?
Huh?
It's only nine
Eh,
US
oh,
dollars? Wow.
it's
Okay.
$9 on discount, but it's like $50 now or something.
Mm.
So it's expensive now. It's during discount you get it. So for example, okay, so now they got a discount for $20.
Mm-hmm.
The original price they put is like $200, $200.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think that's lying, but I will see it when I see it.
Mm.
So
Okay. So how about the other one? So you bought the Udemy uh
no,
course,
and two Udemy course, correct?
yeah,
One is
and
for
then
data
the
science.
you bought
One,
the unit testing book as well, right?
correct,
And so, and I am guessing you're not using C# for your work
correct,
because
correct.
That's something you usually would use Python or JavaScript. That's why you got the
Correct.
React book.
Correct.
So how does the skill transfer from like
Ah,
you learn something from C sharp, but you're not using C sharp, right?
uh, so the thing is, I know C sharp. I had to do it in university. This one,
Mhm.
so
But
it's
then
not
this
too
is
bad.
academic knowledge, but not practical production knowledge.
Yeah, correct.
Hmm.
But in this case, it also depends on author. In this case, what the author does in this book is very good. Is that uh, it start a bit very heavy on tools, but they tell you the reason. For example, in
Hmm.
unit tests, you should only test one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Okay. One if you got a class, one method at a time. And they show you how do you do that in C sharp, and how do you that how you should fake it. A bit heavy on that, and they will explain to you why you need to fake things.
Hmm.
Then so this book actually covers a lot of principle with C sharp example. So for example, here's a few principles to remember. One method,
Hmm.
assert one method at a time, assert one scenario at a time. So for example, a method would output different thing. So maybe you want to have one test for error, one test for
Hmm.
success.
Hmm.
Let's say if your success got multiple meaning, a good example is let's say uh, so you so you had a logging system that will output to syslog, output as string, output as JSON or XML. Okay, for example, right? Then
Hmm.
each of those are one test case. So you got four
Hmm.
test case plus one failure, for example. Then let's say syslog actually had an external dependency for syslog server. Then you have to learn to mock it.
Hmm.
Then so they go a lot on principle at the end. So they also go a lot about technicality. What's the difference between stub and mock? Mock
Hmm.
can be asserted. That's the main one. Stub is to fake data. The thing is, C sharp is very static language, so he spent a lot of time actually trying to talk about how to fake data.
Yeah.
Uh, so you have to build an interface, then your class should implement the interface, then you should inherit from this class, then you need to mock
Hmm.
how this thing, and they
And
give the
it's not
reason
something
why.
that you need to do in Python or in the dynamic language that does duck
But
typing because you don't have to do one interface.
correct, but uh, it's still very useful because sometimes in a dynamic language we are so convenient and everything. We try to do it's a horrible design, and I see in production we try to
Hmm.
do too many things in one function.
Yeah.
That is extremely horrible. It
Hmm.
reminds me that to make tests effective, even though we are using function, we should try to split up our function. Uh, some idea like dependency injection. How do you make things easier to test? So one
Hmm.
thing that I suggest for them is that in constructor had a function that pass in an object to so that they can process
Hmm.
a socket or whatnot, right? In this case, maybe if you use class, yeah, so we can steal the same idea. If you use function, then maybe we should think about do we want to pass in a parameter that do all this, do what?
Hmm.
Do to make it easier to mock an object and do things, right?
Hmm.
So it still work, but you need to know what you want to learn. It's one of those things where uh, I like to use university. So if you go to university to learn a course, you waste your time. If to learn
Hmm.
programming, you waste your time.
Hmm.
University is only useful if you know what you want to learn. In this case, I want to learn algorithm because in real world is you there's less time to learn that, for example, right?
Hmm.
Or the
Hmm.
advanced thing. That book is precisely like that. If you want to learn specifically how to do unit tests, you don't get a lot of things, but you want to get a big idea how to do things and why you do things, you will get it because toward the end they will tell you that uh, why you want to do one test at a time, why you want to name your stuff this way. Uh,
Hmm.
some part that is not really good, for example, like some in the unit test tool that allow them to have label. They said why you
Hmm.
don't label. Make sure your tests are descriptive.
Hmm.
Test x x plus 1 plus 1 equals to 2, something like this, right? Make it descriptive.
Hmm.
Make it descriptive. Then finally they will go big picture. So the big picture goes like this, which is actually very worth it. Test principles. Test leads to good design, but good design doesn't lead to good test doesn't lead to good design. Good test helps you make good design. For example, because for example, a good example is not too long ago, DHH Ruby on Rails was criticizing that test driven development is horrible or something.
Mm-hmm.
He was saying something like this. Sometimes when we focus too much on tests, we can also make bad design. So
Yeah.
you need to plan your test well and all that. Test should be fast. Something I need to learn and all that. Yeah.
If
So
you
you
if would you recommend something like this to a beginner where it's like a
no
transfer of skills, or like
no
so you would probably need to be a more experienced developer in order to know what to pick from uh as like a collateral book, right? Because
correct.
it's not necessarily the technology that you need to learn now,
Yeah.
but it is something related, and then
Yes.
I guess a beginner would be confused like why is
I
the design like this on C sharp and I'm
yeah.
using Python, it's and then
Correct.
I type start doing Python C sharp style.
Correct. Correct. So you
Hmm.
need to know what you need to actually have an idea why things are done this way before you know what to transfer. Which is why I'm very excited about the JavaScript version.
Hmm.
Once the JavaScript version is out, I would review again. But if the content are similar structure, I would recommend it because more likely everybody will use JavaScript
Hmm.
and more likely they were able to pick up and understand the situation.
Hmm. I just bought it, by the way, and now I'm
Okay.
looking through the JavaScript version, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Art of Unity. How much did you buy this for? It was on a discount, right?
On the discount, I get $20 plus the physical book.
20.
Yeah.
Wow, not bad.
No, actually, I get 40, 39.
Well,
The
because I
39
got
US book.
I bought this for 32 now. Is it
With the
cheaper now?
physical book,
No,
with
without
the
the
phys-
physical book.
I get it with the physical book.
Ah, okay. So this is 32
So
without.
yeah. So mending. Okay, I have it. So I got it on Christmas Eve, my Christmas present.
Mm-hmm.
I so I get it for 39.94 with the book. I
Not
also get
bad.
the e-books, but I get the book as well.
I don't need the physical book, but I mean it would be nice. That includes shipping, right? Wow,
Correct, correct, correct.
not bad. So this is only part one and part two, I think.
Yeah, but that is a lot of
This.
it. A lot of that is already a gist already, but there's quite a
Mm-hmm.
few things. Uh, the thing is, here's a catch. Version 3 is still in review, so which is
Yeah.
why I suggest that you wait for us first because we're the suckers that buy this book. But
Mm-hmm. Oh,
if the structure is the same, I'm leaning toward recommending this, but I suggest you wait for our review first
yes.
because it is.
Uh,
Yeah, go on.
mm-hmm. No, I'm buying. Well, you're buying. You bought it. I'm buying it because our employers reimburse the books
Oh,
for learning
this one
as a
is I
personal
bought it for
upgrade.
myself.
Yeah.
This
Well,
for
so for
myself.
me, I'm reimbursing this, so
Uh-huh.
I don't I don't mind as much. If it
Yeah.
it fails a lot, then yeah, well, that's a learning still a learning experience for me. But yeah, it is looking good so far, but um, yeah, I think you might want to. It does say it's only releasing next year, February 2021. So that
Correct.
might be a long time,
Correct.
but we'll
And
see.
also the thing is,
Manning has good books, so I
yeah, and
understand.
also the author is the first version of the book is for JUnit, then the second version of the
Hmm.
book is C Sharp. So JavaScript is a big job. Yeah, in
Well,
a way
yeah,
it's
well,
easier.
at least he's still doing the Java theme, right? Like, I mean,
Correct, correct,
JavaScript is
correct.
not Java, but he started off with Java, and then C Sharp, which is kind of like Java, and then
Yeah,
JavaScript, which tried to be like Java but for the web, but completely went off into its own thing. But at least
correct.
it's the same theme that he's going for.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's see how it goes, but I like it so far. So let's say, yeah. Anything else because we have 2 minutes before we go off.
Oh, do you have anything interesting on the comments?
Uh,
Nicholas is still here. Hello. Remote is hard for secure systems that can only be accessed from inside the office. Usually, the VPNs are set up for
Correct.
this, right?
Correct.
Um,
And also,
unless you're like in a credit card processing facility. So
uh,
I work in a technical support uh, system before, and they
yep,
had this we called the aquarium because you had like security pat downs, etc., just to go
yeah,
in or out. There's single exit, single entrance, and then you have like a glass screen, and then everything is like cordoned off. The network is cordoned off, and
yeah.
all of these things. So unless maybe it's like that,
I work in a reasonably secure one, but I do get VPN. VPN is annoying, but it's not that big of a deal.
yeah.
I
Uh, I,
get a Mac for a reason, so
mhm,
that I can just throw it to the support guys to do their work.
yeah, exactly. AWS Office is a bit small for a meetup bigger than 30 people,
Yeah,
so I guess
it's
that's the
true.
reason
It's
why they
actually
don't want.
true.
Well, it's I guess it's a sales. That's probably a big mistake for AWS. That if you have a sales location,
Yep.
then you should have a space for a meetup for your user group, because the people who are going to recommend to management that hey we should use Amazon
Yeah.
would be the developers, and if
Uh,
you can't attract them, well that's a sad thing.
yeah, but Malaysian IT is traditional, which is why they have the enterprise event to do the recommendation instead
That's
of the grassroots.
so yeah, so that's the thing, right? You might have that thing, but you still won't like, oh, should we do this? Like we don't have the
Uh,
people for this. I don't know.
Malaysian startup already sold. A Malaysian startup is already sold on AWS, so they do
Hmm.
not need to do extra work. I think
Oh
it's still
no.
better. It's still better. It's still better. They have bigger space, but
Hmm.
in a financial point of view, they may not need to do extra work because the startup scene is already sold. The
I don't
bank
know.
and all that, the bank and all that require need an enterprise event, not a small grassroots area anyway.
Like Google is probably eating their lunch on the grassroots though, because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
their cloud offerings are being very competitive against
Correct.
AWS. AWS was a first mover. That's why a lot of developers understand AWS
Yes.
because they learned it first. But and I had the same problem. Like I had to understand the Google Cloud system thing.
Yeah.
But once you understand it, it's actually quite nice.
Yes. So
Yeah.
let's move on. Data privacy they covered. Then
Yeah.
the
So that's it.
yeah. So next week is officially the Chinese New Year. Actually, it's this weekend, but Chinese New Year is like 15 days event.
So we're taking another break.
Now I will join
No, we're
because I'll
not.
be sick of holiday.
Okay, then
I think
we're doing one next week.
yeah. So I do not know what yet, but let's see how it goes. So that's it.
Okay.
Shall we say
Well,
goodbye?
if anyone has any suggestions, like just mention it on the YouTube comments or
Yep.
on the Engineers at My Slack channel, or
Mhm.
like just bug swimming on Facebook or something.
Yep. So that's it.
Bye.
Bye. And broadcast.